Hello, everyone. Welcome to the program. This is Sunday Politics on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbalo in Abuja. The 2023 politics is charging up the political atmosphere here in Nigeria, and the election timetable has put enormous pressure on the political players. The case in Edo State, for example, the politics appear to be a different flavor. The leadership tussle in the People's Democratic Party, PDP in Edo State, seems to have taken a new dimension as Governor Godwin Obaseki insists that he is ready to face antagonists within or outside the state. Mr. Obaseki will drop hint during a PDP caucus meeting in Benin City. The Edo State capital said that the party has been properly harmonized. Take a listen to him.
I have said it. PDP belongs to all of us. I am not going to leave PDP for anybody. Anybody who cannot accept my leadership of PDP in Edo State will leave PDP for us. It's as simple as that. And we don't like to boast. We don't like to talk too much. But you know where we're coming from. So whoever is backing any groups outside Edo State, I am pleading, leave Edo alone. Leave Edo State alone. Edo is not another like any other state. Edo is Edo. I told you during our Christmas gathering that I will not do anything or commit to anything without sitting with each and every one of you and us agreeing what to do and where to go. I will not trade you behind you. So whatever it is, let us all come as one family, let's sit down and let's have a conversation and let's agree where we want to go. They've tried all sorts, but I say, look, we are battle tested and we are not battle weary. So let people know that nobody has a monopoly of fight. Fight is not good. It's not the way we want to go. To win an election, you need everybody to come together and work together. We have come to join PDP from APC. My name is God Win. I always win.
Interesting scenario playing out. Strong words from the governor. When a political leader speaks in this manner, not everything is put on the table, but a lot can be deduced from what is said. Well, we see how things pan out in that set. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo is 85 years old. Congratulations to him and happy birthday to Nigeria's former president. And he celebrated it in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital. At the event, the former president took a swipe at presidential hopefuls and also speaks on the report that he was sponsoring some people to be Nigeria's next president. Listen to former President Olusegun Obasanjo.
I cast a cursory look at some of the people running around and those for whom people are running around. If EFCC and ICPC will have done their job properly and supported adequately by the judiciary, most of them will be in jail. Any person who has no integrity in small things cannot have integrity in big things. I was told that social media credited to me names of 3 people from the South that I am sponsoring for presidency in 2023. If I will sponsor people for presidency, it won't be 3. I would be a fool to be sponsoring 3 at the same time. But how did it come about? I don't know.
Former President Olusegun Obasanjo. Away from Edo politics and Abeokuta, let's come to Abuja here, where President Muhammadu Buhari is now out of the country. He's left the country, and he may be out for another 2 weeks. The purpose of his trip this time around is for medical checkup. The president said that the vice president, Yemi Osinbajo, will preside over the nation's affairs for 2 weeks while he's away on a medical trip to London. Take a listen to President Muhammadu Buhari.
I cannot claim to be doing the work alone. The government is fully represented. The vice president is there. Constitutionally, when I'm away, he is in charge. And the secretary to the government, and then the chief of staff. So no problem.
Some Nigerians are expressing doubts regarding the ability of your party to conduct its national convention successfully. What will you tell them?
Well, they should wait and see. How do we come as a party to take power from the ruling party who had been there before us for so many years? So we have the capacity. Everything will be all right.
We'll be getting some comments on that statement made by President Muhammadu Buhari, and of course, some of your biggest and hottest political stories in the land on the program tonight. Well, the pressure of who becomes the presidential candidate of the APC may be more of a difficult job than any political party, more difficult to decide than any other political party. If to go by the names of those who have been mentioned or those who have thrown their hearts in the ring, it will be a most intense and keenly contested race that is going to be in the ruling APC when they hold their primaries. But the APC might have an easy way out if they consider a few options. The contest should be a bit mild if there's some internal consideration and consultations. But that will be a difficult task. It cannot be so easy. But it might be an easy way out of going into the arena to conduct a primary. So the party has its options, and it will decide what these options are. But let's discuss some of these issues tonight. I'm being joined by our former Senate Chief Whip, a biologist turned politician who ran for the Senate on the platform of the Action Congress of Nigeria, ACN, and later again, when the party merged to be APC, returned into the Senate. He later became the Senate Chief Whip, Professor Olushola Adeyeye. He joins us from our Lagos studio. Thank you, Professor, for joining us tonight. I guess we should begin from what we heard former President Olusegun Obasanjo, what he said. He said, if the ICPC and the EFCC were to have done their jobs properly, then some of the presidential hopefuls will be in jail by now. Let me get your reaction on that statement from the former president.
I happen to agree with the former president. We all, as Nigerians, often complain that there is wanton corruption in the land. But very few people have been found guilty by courts of competent jurisdiction. It is not enough to say there's corruption. The corruption must be proven in court. Until a court has found a person guilty, the presumption of innocence must be given. And for that reason, regardless of what I may think or what President Obasanjo may say, the truth is, whether you are competing for the presidency or not, whether you are aspiring for the presidency or not, a lot of criminals are walking the streets of Nigeria. We hope the day will come when the prosecution of corrupt people will be rapid and we can have a system where those who administer the affairs of this country will be people who don't only have skeletons in their cupboard, but whose very cupboard is the representation of a morgue.
That word is laden with a lot of, with a lot there, deep words there, but if you look at it now, the question is, how do we then identify the good people in office? There are a lot of people who have thrown their heart in the ring, and people will say, if you have held political office in the past, there is no way you can really say that you are totally clean. That is a school of thought. For some people who say political office is laden with a lot of landmines. So how can Nigerians know who is best? Because coming from a former president, that most of the hopefuls, if the anti-corruption agencies were to have done their jobs well, some of them would have been in jail. That seems to be a very wide brush to have painted, a lot of people.
Unfortunately, many of them are not in jail precisely because the instrument that should have put them in jail were abused by people like President Obasanjo himself when he was in office. Because the truth of the matter was, the EFCC and other such agencies were used to harass people. For example, we know what happened in Anambra State. We remember what happened in Plateau State, when in fact, of an assembly of 24, where 2/3 were required to remove a governor, the legislators were taken out of state, essentially incarcerated, and a minority of them were used to remove a sitting governor. Contrary to the instrument of our constitution, we were all alive. When Chris Nwabweze Ngige was not only removed from office, he was locked up in the toilet. He was lucky because the man who locked him up and who told this country that he was acting on orders was an assistant inspector general of police. I was in the House of Rep at the time. He was lucky because those who incarcerated Joshua Darie were not of that high rank. It was a sergeant who locked Darie, a man with constitutional immunity, up. So corruption, yes, stealing money is terrible. But stealing money is not the only form of corruption that we have in this country. Abusing the Constitution, in fact, is a worse form of corruption. So, personally, I wish that there is a way in which we can quickly sanitize this country. If you ask me, part of the problem is, when I was in the civil service, by the grace of God, I ran to the level of a principal officer in the federal bureaucracy. I was a principal technologist. You could not travel and go and buy your own ticket if you were on an official trip. The UCH bought your ticket for you. The University of Ibadan bought your ticket for you. If you had to travel by rail, the system bought your ticket for you. When I was in the House of Rep, when I was in the Senate, hardly did anyone bought tickets for me. I was allowed to buy my own ticket. So if I wanted to be corrupt, I could inflate the price of the ticket and I could get receipt for the ticket. In fact, people complain about the money that politicians make in the National Assembly. Most of the things people say are in fact lies. I never got any money for wardrobe and all those things that you read about. People are getting 36 million naira per month. Never got anything like that. But I will be the first to tell you that we got many things that we ought not to get. Nobody should be given money to go and buy his own ticket. If you are going to be traveling to Portugal, the Nigerian embassy should meet you there with your ESTA code. If you didn't come, you shouldn't collect it. But right now, you get your money if you don't collect it, whether you travel or not. And the truth of the matter is, sometimes when you don't travel, you can produce fake receipts. There is the whole industry. And let's be honest, these things cannot be done solely by politicians. For every act of corruption that is committed by a politician, there is one, or there may be more than one civil servant who is aiding that politician. So that's the problem. We need to sanitize the system. We were hoping that somebody of the stellar character of Obasanjo and of even Buhari will come to office and cleanse the system. No, the system is still as dirty as we ever had it. As far back as 1978 and 79, Obafemi Awolowo, whose birthday, by the way, is today, campaigned through the length of this country. And among the things that Awolowo said was that Nigeria had one of the highest ESTA codes in the world. Awolowo also said that were he to become president for 4 years, he would not leave the shores of Nigeria. He said he would leave that duty to the Minister of External Affairs, and that in extraordinary circumstances, he might permit his vice president to travel. One of the easiest ways to steal money in Nigeria is through the ESTA code. When I was in the House of Rep, the ESTA code for a rep was then, I think, about $500 or $600 per night. at that time, the Extra Code per night for Ghana was $60. For South Africa, it was $80. For Egypt, it was $90. For Nigeria, it was, I think, 500 or 600. I don't quite remember. But when I was in the Senate, it was over $900. Now, everybody's going to say, oh, they are making so much money. Wait a minute. Ask yourself, what does a judge earn as Extra Code when he travels? How does that compare with a judge in Ghana or South Africa? What does a head of parastatal in Nigeria earn when he travels? How does it compare with a head of parastatal in Ghana or South Africa? These are ways in which we are stealing this country to the bones. And we must summon the courage, the honesty, and the patriotism to tell ourselves we must stop it. I think
Prof,
the simplest we can do. Yes, please.
Yeah, I mean, so one we wonder when you talk about this. I mean, I've had conversations on national TV, and one we wonder what has become of the Stephen Ronsaye report about the Nigerian civil service. But let me take you to the APC, and the president has traveled, and he said, I mean, effectively, his vice is in control, is in charge, and it brings me to the choice, a difficult one that maybe your party may be confronted with, of the long list of presidential hopefuls in your party: the Bola Tinubu, the Yemi Osinbajo, the Oro Okorocha, the Orji Uzor Kalu, Umai, the governor of Cross River State. A long list of them that are there in your political party. From your own point of view, you are no longer in the National Assembly, but you're watching from the sideline. How difficult will it be for your party? And considering what President Olusegun Obasanjo is talking about on the quality of aspirants or those who want to be Nigeria's president, does your party have that kind of character being described by former President Olusegun Obasanjo?
It doesn't matter what party you look at in Nigeria. People have a right to aspire to any office, so long as they have not been found guilty of an offense that will disqualify them. As far as I know in this country today, the only person who is not a criminal and who is disqualified from contesting for the office of president is Chief Aremu Olusegun Obasanjo, because by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, he has been president for 2 terms of 8 years. He is disqualified. Any other politician who has not been found guilty by a court of law has a right to aspire. The more, the merrier. What is happening in APC with endless number of aspirants should happen in every other party. What we will hope for is that the process will be kept free and fair. So long as the process is kept free and fair, welcome to the club. That is the nature of democracy. In the best of climates, primary contest, the seeking for nomination of candidacy of your party is nothing but a family rivalry. That's how Barack Obama defined it. So if Tinubu wants to be president, why should he not want? If Osinbajo wants to be president, why should he not want? If Okorocha wants to be president, why should he not want? It is left to party members to choose the person they want. And if the party makes the wrong choice, one then prays that the citizenry at large will show them by rejecting their choice at a free and fair election. Tell you what, if I were younger, I would also throw my heart into the field. I have ideas. I believe that if I were younger, I will make a very great president for this country. But no, I've given up that ambition. Some of my Elisha Grammar School classmates will tell you. That's why as far back as 1966, I told them that I will one day become the Prime Minister of Nigeria. That's what we had at that time. Now, I know I will never become Prime Minister, and I know I will not become President. But I don't have anything against any member of my party or any member of any other party who aspires to an office. Get to the field, canvass, put up your program. Let's hear what you want to offer this country. And if you are serious, let the people decide your fate.
What do you make of, I could say that you belong to that political family. Tinubu, Fayemi, Oshibajo. These are heavyweights in their own right. And these three have been mentioned and their names have been thrown up. Well, Bola Tinubu had already said it, that he wants to be president. And Oshibajo and Fayemi, it's just in the, at the level of conjectures, whether they want to run or not. But there are very strong names that have been mentioned in the race. What does it look like when from this kind of political family, three people, especially from the southwest, is Bola Tinubu or Oshibajo or Fayemi, or who do you, in your own feeling and thinking, is best for your party to put forward? In a race that PDP or the alternative political parties are saying, it will be a strong contest and the APC might not have an easy ride.
I pray that the APC does not have an easy ride. But I pray that the APC will win. I so do because when I recall 16 years of PDP, President Obanjo was talking about corruption. Let's ask him how much money did his government vote for road construction? And how many of those roads were constructed by the time he left office? When the time comes, we will face each other and we'll ask each other questions. As for the names you have mentioned, as I said earlier on, each of them has the right to aspire to the highest office in the land. It is no secret that I've endorsed a particular person when I gave the speech on the new tribe in Kano. I'll be the first to tell you, in my lifetime, I have never met a person who was as prepared and as honest and as totally commitment to the advancement of the progress of Nigeria than the man whose birthday is today, Obafemi Awolowo. I resigned a level 12 job in the federal bureaucracy to go and take a level 9 job with the UPN because I was such a believer in Obafemi Awolowo. By the end of the day, the Nigerian people chose not to vote for him, at least in 1979. Some of us believed that what happened in 1983 was nothing but barefaced rigging. But we let history take care of that. The important thing was, by the time he died, Dan Agbese first said it, Ojukwu re-echoed it, that Obafemi Awolowo was the greatest president Nigeria never had. So unfortunately, in history, sometimes the best person does not win. I happen to believe that a particular person is the best. I believe that for being the vice president of the country, that he has had the exposure, he has the intellect, he has the guts, and I believe he has the mindset, the temperament to make a great president. However, and look, it all depends on the party. For example, would there be zoning or would there not be zoning? I've told everybody who will listen to me in this country, if there will be zoning, my own preference would be that the presidency should be zoned to an Igbo. Whether that Igbo is from the southeast or south, because there are people in rivers who are Igbos, there are people from Delta who are Igbos. But if there will not be zoning, my own candidate is Yemi Oshibajo. Having said that, I am extremely close to or with Kayode Fayemi. He and I were in the trenches. We traveled throughout the world and throughout Africa. He and I appeared before Canadian Parliament. He and I met President Museveni of Ghana. He and I went to Eritrea. He and I went to Oslo. He and I went to so many places fighting for democracy in this country. And I'm extremely proud of the good record that Kayode Fayemi has that for himself in Ekiti. I know Bola Tinubu very well. We were in the trenches. I believe there is no harder working political strategies in Nigeria than Bola Tinubu. I just so believe that when you weigh all the components together, my own preference is for Yemi Osinbajo. But the issue is that at the end of the day, the choice is not for me alone to make. Others will make their own choices. What I pray, especially for the members of my own party, is that in disagreeing with one another, they should not become disagreeable. By the way, are we saying that only the Yorubas in the APC are competent enough to be president? Oh, I love Rotimi Amechi. I've tried to get in touch with him for several weeks now without succeeding in getting in touch with him to know what his wishes are. I love Tunde Fashola. I believe Fashola will make a first-class president. Fashola, I don't think is keen. So I leave those who are not keen not to be keen. But the important thing is we have people who have put themselves forward. At the right time, we should ask them what their plans are for this country. And if we agree with them, we should elect them. That's my take on that.
Before we go on a break, I don't know how easy it will be for Bola Tinubu, who was responsible for the merger of APC with other political parties, which in turn helped the APC, I mean the ACN morphed into APC at the time with other political parties, and it helped Muhammadu Buhari to become Nigeria's president. Now that he's very serious, because you see the consultations that he's making. If Osinbajo, the vice president, is your preference, I mean, talking to Bola Tinubu to step down for Osinbajo, how easy would that be? What kind of consensus can that be? And how will your party go about it? It's perhaps going to be the most difficult task of asking Bola Tinubu to step down, is it?
I just said that in any democracy, party primary is nothing but a rivalry that sometimes, a rivalry between siblings that sometimes can be very fierce. It's not going to be easy if Bola Tinubu wants to be president. The last time he and I spoke, he actually told me that he was not keen on being president, but he has a right to change his mind. And if he wants to be president, he has a right to aspire to that office. Other Nigerians also have the right to aspire to that office. I've read copiously in the newspapers that there was an agreement between Bola Tinubu and Muhammadu Buhari on who will become president after the other. Who gave the two of them the authority to take that decision on behalf of the rest of us who are members of the party? I was a member of the UPN. I was a very effective member of the UPN. I wrote speeches for Bola Ige when Bola Ige was governor, because before some of these people later became governor. So am I a neophyte in politics? Of course I'm not. When Bola Ige announced here in Lagos that he wanted to be president, the speech he read there, I wrote it. When Bola Ige faced the Yoruba convention in Atlanta and enunciated his plan, the speech he wrote, the speech he read, I wrote it. So if Buhari and Tinubu now had a part between them, honestly, as far as I'm concerned, that's not a part of the party. Nobody announced it to the party. Tinubu is a fantastically hardworking human being. He has a right to aspire to that office. But that office will not be given solely because of a private arrangement between two people. Where in the world do you do that? Look, Osinbajo is the vice president to Buhari. I pray that Buhari would support Osinbajo. But it's not a given. In the US, sometimes the vice president emerges as the candidate of his party. Sometimes he does not. When the president of the USA, Joseph Biden, saw that he might not win the primary of his party, he withdrew and allowed Hillary Clinton to win. But what happened?
All right,
Clinton
Prof.
lost. 4 years later, he's back.
I have two questions just before we wrap up. And one is still about APC. And what is looking like a turbulent period for your party in terms of leadership and going into the convention. It will be a make or mar. Some people have described the situation. What are your biggest fears as your party go? I mean, it's, the convention is in another 20 days.
My biggest fear is that we may have a convention that is so cantankerous that at the end we probably implode. I'm praying to God that that will not happen. Because should we implode, what we will have in the country is a de facto one-party system, and that's the PDP. And for all that people have blamed the APC about, the truth of the matter is that the record of the PDP during their years in government, especially their latter years, are not much that anybody should recommend to our republic. So I pray that no matter what, that we will have a fierce primary, somebody will emerge, and whoever emerges, all of us should bury the hatchet, forgive each other, and come together. If Fayemi is the candidate of my party, Fayemi knows he has my support. If Bola Tinubu is the candidate of my party, Bola Tinubu, I believe, knows that he will have my support. If somebody whose name has not even been thrown into the hat right now, such as Ibikunle Amosun, such as Rotimi Amechi, so long as it's from my party, honestly, I believe I will support. There are 2 or 3 or 4 people whose names have been heard that I can never support. At that point, if any of such people should emerge, and don't ask me who they are, in that case, I will not vote for them. I remember that, I think it was the year
Although I told you that I have 2 more questions, but
yes.
now that you said I should not ask you, sometimes I like to dare. I want to ask, who are these 4 people that you will
one of them is Seun Okinbaloye. One of them is Seun Okinbaloye.
I don't belong to your political party.
What party
do
you belong to?
Now.
What party do you belong to?
I don't know if I ever want to. Channels Television Party.
God bless you.
Journalism Party.
Seriously speaking, in 2003, I was the only person in the federal local government of Osun State who voted for MD Yusuf, because I thought he ran the best campaign in that year. It was not a very expensive campaign, but the advertisements he published and the things he said, at the end, I had to choose between MD Yusuf and the late Gani Fawemi. I knew that neither of them would win the election. I knew that there were some of my relatives and friends who would vote for Gani Fawemi. So for the sentiment of it, I voted for MD Yusuf, and he was the only vote he got from my local government. And until he died, I always told him, I was the one man who voted for you in Ifedayo. Look, at the end of the day, that's democracy. If the process is kept free and fair, may the best person win, and may God give the Nigerian people the wisdom to choose right.
Prof, let's wrap up now. And I want to take you back home. I'm not talking about, all right, Gbomina, your village or your hometown.
Not a village. All right, it's a town pronounced so by the British in 1896.
All right,
when the British came to Osun in 1896, the first place where they met a man who could speak English was Orai Gbomina.
I hope I've not triggered a history lesson.
All right, you can continue.
Interestingly, we are from the same area.
Yes.
Although I'm from the north, you are from the southwest.
Yes, that's the nonsense that Don Lugard did.
But it's interesting anyway. That's the interesting nature of our nation, Nigeria.
Sure.
Well, let's, in 30 seconds, if you can give us an understanding of what is happening in Osun State politics. What could have gone wrong between Aregbesola and Governor Oyetola. So much that it does put a very big question mark on the chances of your party at the governorship election. In 30 seconds, can you unpack it for us?
I cannot unpack it in 30 seconds because I am one of the closest persons in Osun to Aregbesola. And during that period, honestly, I was also very, very close to Oyetola. I, for one, have never hidden the fact that I'm for Oyetola being returned as the candidate of our party. I've never hidden it to anybody I spoke with, either publicly or privately. Having said that, I'm not an idiot. My father did not give birth to a buffoon. I know that the last time we had it tough when we were not united. I also know that we might have it tough again if we are not united. But I'm confident that against all the odds, we will be united. I'm praying that the PDP will again choose a candidate that the people of Osun will know will be too risky to rule them. And Oyetola will return as the governor of Osun State.
Because we are totally out of time for this segment of speaking with you, it would have been interesting to dig deeper. But I guess we should be able to have you some other time to talk about Osun politics and what really happened between your friend Aregbesola and the governor Oyetola. But
both of them are my friends.
Most sincerely. Oh yeah. Thank you so much, Professor Olushola Ade, former Senate Chief Whip, for talking to us tonight. It's indeed a pleasure, and it's good to see you again after such a long time.
God bless you, Sheon. This is my first interview since I left the Senate. God bless you.
Wow. Wow. It's good to hear you again. Thank you so much. Now, let's switch gears now. Let's come to Abuja. There's been the talk about a third force to challenge the status quo in our political system in Nigeria ahead of 2023. The alternative platform may have found its mojo. And, they've found a way to go about achieving their aim. The aim is actually, from what we've said in the past few days, to garner the strength of a coalition which is made up of the National Rescue Movement, NRM, the Red Card Movement, the NSAS, and some Nigeria's registered political parties to provide a platform to field a joint presidential candidate in the 2023 election. Professor Patu Tomi is leading that front. Patu Tomi is a political economist who has attempted to be governor of Delta State at some point on the platform of the APC. He was, at a very young age, a presidential advisor in this country. I guess it was in the Second Republic. He has also run for Nigerian president. He is the founder of the Center for Value in Leadership. Professor Patu Tomi, he joins me here in our Abuja studio. Thank you so much, Prof, for coming tonight.
Great pleasure.
It's good to see you.
Yes,
I've always been talking to you virtually.
Yeah.
But it's good to see you. We'll call you the alternative man. You do think, and you've said, for
but
not
show not to think of an alternative is to commit a crime.
Okay.
Our country is done. It's done. It's
Done
been
in what
destroyed.
sense?
Check any measure. SGDP, Millennium Goals, infant mortality, debt. Check anything that you want to use to measure the health of a country, and our country is at the bottom. It's time to rebuild it. We must stop what has caused this hemorrhage.
But we're not in a pariah state. God forbid.
What's a pariah state? What's a pariah state? We were better off under Abacha. That was a pariah state than we are today.
You compare Nigeria to a military regime?
Are you kidding me?
Abacha?
People were safe. My friend Dr. Usman Bugaji, his brother cannot go to work in Katsina because the insecurity is that bad. We live in a Nigeria where you can't even move around. Fuel queues just crippled the cities. We live in a Nigeria where, look, our two biggest import items today, food, petrol, the two things that we should be exporting to the world. Doesn't it tell you that there is collapse?
But does the government under the Buhari and APC, does it look like they are walking towards it? Because what we hear from the APC is that things were terrible and they met the nation in a mess, that the PDP bequeathed to them a country in a bad shape. But does it look like things might be difficult, but if you're moving gradually to the answer, does it look like the arithmetic or the mathematics is difficult, but we are moving towards the answer?
You know what they ask people in politics everywhere in the world? Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? You, Shehu, do you think you're better off today than you were 4 years, 6 years, 7 years ago? Honestly, respond to that question. And you will find why there's so much anger on the streets of Nigeria. There's so much hunger in the streets of Nigeria. And if we don't work an alternative that will stop this hemorrhage, we're not patriots. And that's what the challenge of now is.
In that room adjacent to your living room was where yourself, Wale Edun, and a couple of others sat, and you designed a political party. Was this the kind of political party you designed?
Certainly not. Certainly not.
You designed an agenda of rescuing this nation.
Right.
What went wrong? Did they follow the roadmap?
Not at all, of course. It was hijacked from day one. I could tell you hours after the election that we were in trouble. I could really tell you that. But you know, we are people of hope. So we hope some. A few months after, it was clear that we're traveling the wrong track. I hate to do this, but someday, 4 months, less than 5 months into the life of the government in 2015, I had a telephone conversation with Colonel Abubakar Umar. That conversation still haunts because during the course of that conversation, it was clear from both of us that our country was going to be in very serious trouble and that, you know, we might suffer history really terribly from what would come. But, well, so you make a mistake and the wrong people hijack a dream. You want to design a dream that cannot be hijacked. And that's the patriot's duty. That is why we must have an alternative. That is why, look, we focus. I mean, I saw you and my friend, Professor Day, going back and forth about this person, that person. That's the problem. We focus on big men, big names. We should focus on big issues. Big issues that will get the Nigerian people out of this state of insecurity. Big issues that will prevent our young people from being unemployed. There's so many of them who have been so unemployed for so long, they become unemployable, they've lost hope. And when they lose hope, everything is lost. And that's what we must do. Renew faith in people that government can serve their interest, not the interest of politicians. If you watch the voting in National Assembly, the way that the National Assembly humiliated womanhood in our country, if you followed, Professor was talking about Esther Code and stuff like that. If you follow the spending of Nigerian politicians in a time when most Nigerians can't eat one decent meal a day. I give you an example. You know, you can always go to the world and find examples. I keep going back to General Obasanjo, whatever his offenses may be. When he was president or head of state, I was a troublesome young reporter. And he said, oil prices have dropped. I'm sorry, we have to cut our coats according to our cloth, not according to our size. Head of state, biggest car, he could go anywhere and push a 504. And from there, he went all the way down. I have seen no move by the current political class to indicate that Nigeria is in economic trouble. In their spending, the motorcades are getting longer, the kinds of cars that they're buying are getting more expensive. There's a total disconnect between the political class that we know and the Nigerian people. The people feel a betrayal. There is a social contract between citizens and those who have gone to represent them. You know, in corporate governance, essentially what we deal with is the fact that they are agents. So are politicians. They're agents of the people. What has happened is that the Nigerian political class has forgotten about the agency function. The agency function requires accountability.
So we are in a dire strait.
Very dire straits.
So, I mean, the big question here is you and your friends think that you have the answer to the problem.
At least there should be somebody giving some thought to a better way of doing it.
I mean, so this coalition that you're bringing together, we saw you visit the ADC. Is that a political platform you're using?
We're using, there are several political parties at play, and I'm visiting each one of them. But in fact, the biggest platform is that if these things go as structured, I mean, we're building a big tent. A big tent that will bring everybody in, but the guys who will drive must be people of integrity, must be people who have shown commitment to serving people, that leadership is sacrificial giving of self for the advance of the common good. Now, if people are now entering this tent, the first thing they must do is that they must follow a certain code of ethics in their conduct. And that kind of code of ethics will not allow politicians to be running around in fancy cars when the people are starving. It's just not acceptable. Now, labor has been a major part of this conversation. I mean, I spent most of Friday or Thursday, in the office of the president of the Nigeria Labour Congress. And this is not a Labour party, it's the NLC itself conversing with actors, political actors, civil society, and social movements.
What about young people?
Very important. Let me tell you the coalition that we're building, and this is very important. And I like to call it the coalition of the willing and the dispossessed. Who are the willing? Your willing are your dreamers, your philosopher kings, who see their country derailing, who see a different future, a better future for their people. The dispossessed are the women. They're the young people who have been called lazy, even though the only thing happening in Nigeria now are young people in the tech space, are young people in Nollywood, are young people in music, who are exciting the world that there is something, after all, in that country that's almost becoming a laughing stock. Yeah. So the young people are this country. And they cannot be called lazy. And we have plenty of them.
On board?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And then, of course, we have intelligentsia. I mean, the current political class has made a joke of intelligence, of knowledge. Exactly what saved China when Deng Xiaoping took the wheel. So it shows that they don't know what they're doing if they think so lowly about knowledge and they dismiss anything in as theory. Now grammar will go chop and all of that. So for them, politics is about sharing and the stuff that has kept us down.
Prof, do you have the money? Money plays a major role in Nigeria's politics. Do you have the money?
Now, let me tell you why I'm a professor of strategy, my friend.
This is the part I like.
Yes. Your weight can precisely what is used to bring you down. Nigerian political class has depended on money, stolen from the Nigerian treasury. Most of these characters, we knew them. Where did they get the money that they have? The governors who are using public money to finance their parties, these people should be counting on because one day they may all end up in jail. General Obasanjo has spoken to it, but this is stolen money used to buy power.
But he will use it against you.
No, let me tell you why. Let me finally finish up. You know the story of David and Goliath?
Yeah.
One part sees it as, look at this small David against this giant Goliath. And Goliath is looking and saying, my goodness, this guy is so big, there's no way I can miss this catapult shot. And he fells the guy. This is how, throughout the history of enterprise, small companies have beaten giants. And that's what will happen next year in Nigeria. Because the giants, that you, as you call them, they built everything around corruption. They expect that they will buy votes. They expect that they will put out all these things. But you know what's going to happen? We're going to tell those kids that these are the guys who have destroyed your future. If you only register and vote, they will not be anywhere near power. So we're going to identify those people who voted in the National Assembly. And tell women those people should never hold political office in their lives again.
So you are following the giant in 2023?
Absolutely.
Money will fail.
Money will fail. In fact, anytime you spend money, they will say, ole, ole. That's what happened in 2009.
So we'll be ready for a shake-up, a change,
Absolutely.
a tsunami, a revolution.
You are coming. Speak the English. Speak the English, yo.
You are the professor. Do you think that there will be, I mean, to wrap up now, the effect of what you're working on will be immediate in 2023 or maybe in another 8 years?
That's another point I want to get to. All these conversations keep being about president. We want to shake up the entire system. We want to see human beings in state houses of assembly, not guys who go there. Anything governor says, yes, sir, you go and get one house. We want to shake up the entire system. See, Obiase Kwesili has been running fixed politics, and they've been putting these people through what it means to be a politician of service. We're going to get to those people and say, all of you, please come and run. We want to say to the bishop, find the good people in your diocese. We want them to go to Senate. We want to say to the imam, this, and we'll put all these people into the system.
So
Dismiss these fellows from public life. That's the goal.
So PDP and APC is a warning to them.
I don't want personally to see next year with up to 20% of people who are currently active still in politics.
You are resigning them from
Retiring them permanently
Retiring them
from public life.
Professor Pastomi, I'm personally optimistic and hopeful about what you're planning and the strategy, and hoping that this, from the Second Republic, you've been active, and let's see how this pans out with you and your friends. Thank you so much, Prof, for coming on. It's a pleasure to have you.
Great pleasure
and we
to join you.
To have you more again, to speak about your strategy.
Thank
you so much. And that's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm sure Kimberly enjoy the rest of the evening.